Hello, I'm Bakyar Sanova and you are watching A News. Let's take a look at today's top stories. The United States and Japan have signed a new framework agreement to secure supplies of critical minerals and rare earth. Jamaica and Cuba on high alert as Hurricane Melissa kills 7 across the Caribbean. And a strong earthquake hits western Turkey, causing damage and injuries. The United States and Japan have signed a new framework agreement to secure supplies of critical minerals and rare earth. The deal comes as U.S. President Donald Trump visits Tokyo for talks on trade and security.
U.S. President Donald Trump met with Japan's Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi in Tokyo on Tuesday during the second stop of his Asia diplomacy tour. The talks centered on trade, with both leaders signing a framework agreement aimed at securing the supply of critical minerals and rare earths through mining and processing. The two countries plan to collaborate using economic policy tools and coordinated investments to build more diversified markets for these essential materials. Security cooperation was also a key topic, with the two leaders signaling what they called a new golden age for the U.S. Japan alliance. Trump expressed his gratitude for the strong partnership.
On behalf of our country, I want to just let you know, anytime you have any question, any doubt, anything you want, any favors you need, anything I can do to help Japan, we will be there. We are an ally at the strongest level.
Takaichi, in turn, praised Trump's role in promoting global stability.
In such a short period of time, the world has become more peaceful. I highly value President Trump's unwavering commitment to world peace and stability. I myself have been deeply impressed and inspired by you.
Before departing for South Korea on Wednesday, Trump is scheduled to meet with business leaders. In Seoul, he is expected to hold talks with Chinese President Xi Jinping in hopes of reaching a truce in the ongoing trade war between the world's two largest economies.
U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth addressed military personnel at the U.S. naval base in Yokosuka ahead of remarks by President Donald Trump, stressing the importance of alliances and demonstrating strength amid rising regional tensions. Hegseth, who arrived in Japan on Tuesday, is also scheduled to meet with Japan's defense minister to discuss ways to strengthen defense cooperation.
President Trump, I watch it every day, he has your back. At the Department of War, we have your back. And so we came all this way to reestablish those alliances, make sure adversaries understand how strong we are and that we can project power on beautiful platforms like this, but I came out to encourage you and thank you and recognize to the American people everywhere what a special role you play in this 250 years of the American experiment. We're not here without men and women like you. And if we produce men and women like you, we have 250 more years of this great country and of this great alliance. That's our job, is to pass it to the...
Three-day ASEAN summit wraps up today in Kuala Lumpur. On the final day, ASEAN and China upgraded their free trade pact, while the Philippines took over the 2026 chairmanship from Malaysia.
The 47th ASEAN Summit concludes today in Malaysia. The three-day event in Kuala Lumpur has delivered several key outcomes. In the frame of summit, Thailand and Cambodia signed a peace agreement to end a deadly border dispute. Timor-Leste become the 11th member of the bloc. Trade also took center stage, as the US and China struck a preliminary agreement to ease tensions. The summit included meetings with several of ASEAN's dialogue partners, including the United States, China, India, Japan, and Australia. Discussions ranged from economic and political issues. In the third day of summit, ASEAN and China signed an upgrade to their free trade agreement, which is expected to include sections on digital, green economy, and other new industries. China is seeking to intensify its engagement with ASEAN, a region with a collective gross domestic product of $3.8 trillion.
We have just jointly witnessed the signing of the upgraded protocol for the ASEAN-China Free Trade Agreement 3.0, marking a new opportunity for expanding economic and trade cooperation mechanisms.
Complete uniformity of views is neither possible or nor desirable, but I believe this appreciation for China's consistent and constructive engagement is shared.
The Philippines officially received the chairmanship of ASEAN for 2026. The handover from Malaysia marks the conclusion of its 2025 chairmanship.
South Korea's port city of Busan is preparing for the arrival of U.S. President Donald Trump ahead of the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Summit later this week. Trump, who departed Washington on Friday, is visiting Malaysia, Japan and South Korea on his first trip to the region and his longest journey abroad since taking office in January. During the visit in South Korea, he is expected to meet the Chinese President Xi Jinping in an effort to ease ongoing trade tensions. U.S. President Donald Trump has once again hinted at the possibility of seeking a third term despite the U.S. Constitution limiting presidency to 2. Speaking abroad Air Force One, Trump said he hasn't ruled out running for the White House again, but dismissed the idea of serving as vice president in 2028.
I would love to do it. I have my best numbers ever. It's very terrible. I have my best numbers. You read it. Am I not ruling it out? You'll have to tell me. All I can tell you is that we have a great group of people, which they don't.
European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen commented on helium balloons over Lithuania and called it a hybrid threat. She wrote on her X account that Europe stood in full solidarity with Lithuania in the face of the persistent incursions of helium smuggling balloons into its airspace. Von der Leyen added that the balloons were another reason to accelerate the EU flagship Eastern Flank Watch and European drone defense initiatives. Lithuania's Prime Minister Inga Ruginienė said on Monday her country would begin to shoot down smuggler balloons crossing the border from Belarus, which have repeatedly interrupted the Baltic nations' air traffic. Israel says that it received the body of another deceased hostage from Gaza on Monday, handed over by Hamas. The Red Cross transported the coffin to Israel, where forensic tests will confirm the identity of the remains. If confirmed, the remains of 12 hostages would still be in Gaza. The latest handover followed Israel allowing an Egyptian team to help the Red Cross search in Gaza on Sunday. Earlier, 20 surviving hostages were freed in a U.S. brokered deal for nearly 2,000 Palestinian prisoners. A powerful Category 5 hurricane is tearing through the Caribbean, leaving at least 7 people dead as Jamaica braces for a direct hit. Hurricane Melissa has already caused widespread flooding and evacuations across the region.
Jamaica is bracing for the full force of Hurricane Melissa, the strongest storm in the world this year and possibly the most powerful ever to strike the island. With maximum sustained winds of 282 kilometers per hour, the Category 5 hurricane has already claimed at least 7 lives across the Caribbean, including 3 in Jamaica and 4 in Haiti and the Dominican Republic. The storm's slow movement and extreme strength could bring catastrophic flooding, landslides and life-threatening storm surges across Jamaica. Prime Minister Andrew Holness has urged residents to stay indoors and take every precaution.
We urge persons to stay inside, stay within the precincts of your home, the curtilage of your property. Don't venture outside unnecessarily because the winds, as you can see, can pick up at any time. The rains can come at any time. You can be caught in a flash flood. So we urge you to, at this time, stay inside. That's the safest place to be at the moment.
The government has opened more than 880 shelters nationwide and ordered evacuations in flood-prone communities, including parts of Kingston, such as Port Royal. As Hurricane Melissa loomed, Montego Bay authorities rushed to complete drainage and river cleaning work to reduce the risk of flooding in low-lying areas. Melissa has already caused devastation in Haiti, where heavy rains inundated Lake Hayes and forced thousands from their homes. UNICEF confirmed at least 3 deaths in Port-au-Prince as displaced families struggle to find safety.
We have nothing in our hands to live on. If a hurricane hits, we're screwed. If the hurricane comes on top of all the problems we already have, we'll simply die.
In Cuba, authorities have begun mass evacuations ahead of the storm's expected arrival late Tuesday. More than 500,000 people have been moved from coastal and mountainous regions.
My house is in very bad condition. The members of government quickly told me that I had to evacuate as soon as possible due to the proximity of this Category 5 hurricane. It is very dangerous for Santiago de Cuba.
Meteorologists warned that Melissa could hover over Jamaica for more than 24 hours before slowly moving toward eastern Cuba and the Bahamas later this week.
Deadly clashes have erupted in Cameroon's largest city after 92-year-old President Paul Biya was declared the winner of Sunday's election. Security forces moved in to break up protests, leaving several people dead and fueling anger among young voters.
The world's oldest president, Cameroon's 92-year-old Paul Biya, has won election again, the country's top court said Monday. The Constitutional Council declared him the winner with 53.7% of the vote, compared to 35.2% for opposition leader Issa Chiroma Bakari. Biya's decision to seek another term angered youth and the opposition, which has accused him of having a hand in the disqualification of his strongest rival and using state machinery to manipulate the election. In Cameroon's largest city, riots broke out from Sunday. Security forces used force to disperse crowds, leaving at least 4 people dead in recent days.
We held the protest because President Paul Biya stole our victory. And we, the people, are demanding that victory back. They had already planned everything in advance.
We have suffered enough. Young people are not working. Everyone is suffering. There are no jobs. And the country is in chaos.
Paul Biya has ruled the Central African country for 43 years. This is his 8th term in office. He is only the 2nd head of state to lead Cameroon since its independence from France in 1960.
Mexico and the United States have agreed to extend the looming trade deadline for a few more weeks, giving both sides extra time to resolve outstanding issues. Factories and workers along the northern border, however, continue to navigate uncertainty over tariffs and trade conditions.
Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum said that she spoke with U.S. President Donald Trump, and they agreed to extend a looming trade deadline for a few more weeks, giving both sides extra time to resolve outstanding issues. The pause follows a U.S. decision in July to delay a planned tariff increase on some Mexican goods from 25% to 30%, a 90-day reprieve that was set to end on November 1st. Scheinbaum said both countries are now working to resolve 54 non-tariff barriers before next year's review of the United States-Mexico-Canada agreement.
So we agreed to speak again in a week or so because we are practically already closing this issue, because ultimately on November 1st that deadline closes that we had both set for ourselves of 3 months. We essentially only talked about the trade issue and we agreed to continue working.
The announcement gave a boost to Mexico's peso, which strengthened 0.29% to 18.38 per US dollar. In Ciudad Juarez, northern Mexico, assembly plant workers exporting to the US have faced uncertainty, with some losing shifts or jobs.
Well, companies are reducing staff based on the tariff increase. It's really affecting us.
It does have a lot to do with the company moving elsewhere. I say it's because of the cheaper labor, and the tariffs, all of that is taking a toll.
The extension provides temporary relief, but questions over trade and economic conditions remain.
Welcome back to A News. Nordic cooperation and regional security are in focus this week in Stockholm, where leaders from across the Nordic region have gathered for the annual Nordic Council session. The three-day event brings together 87 parliamentarians, government ministers and prime ministers to discuss collective defense, unity in support of Ukraine, and the broader security challenges facing Europe today. Among the speakers is European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen, who highlighted recent incidents including helium balloons over Lithuania, describing them as a hybrid threat to regional stability. To help us unpack the implications of these developments, we are joined by Alexandra Filipenko, political analyst who joins us from Vilnius, Lithuania. Alexandra, welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
So how significant is the Nordic Council session for regional security in the context of the Ukraine war?
Well, of course, it's significant because now all 5 Nordics inside NATO are discussing, and they are now in line with the general regional plans of the alliance. So we must say that those 5 Nordic states, and of course Finland, Denmark, Iceland, Norway, and Sweden, they look at the pre-existing conditions and they look at what is happening right now, and they are trying to be in line with general NATO plans. So this helps for more resilience, of course, and to top up security to current themes. It helps implement decisions, including also on civil preparedness, I must say, and in general resilience for what is happening right now. Well, especially everything framed by Russia's hybrid attacks, or at least pressure on the eastern flank in general. So, of course, these measures are extremely important and showing this toughness of this part of NATO and readiness to work as one.
Alexandra, how do you assess the role of the Nordic countries in supporting Ukraine?
Well, we've seen that financially the role of Nordic countries was quite significant because the military finances coming from those Nordic states, and also trainers coming from Nordic states. For example, Denmark, Norway, and Sweden funded €500 million on a weapons package and Patriot missiles and munitions, etc., through the Pearl initiative within NATO. And of course, Nordic states together with the Baltic states are working in order to maximize the pressure on Russia and maximize the payments and the pledges to Kiev, financial pledges. So it's we should not underestimate the concrete measures that those Nordic states are taking financially. They are one of the biggest drivers of financial financial support for Kiev. Of course, this gives more security to Kiev, understanding that the Nordics and the Nordic states, together with the Baltic states, although the Baltic states are financially not that capable, but the Nordic states will finance more munitions, more weapons for Ukraine.
On her X account, Ursula von der Leyen mentioned helium balloons over Lithuania as a hybrid threat. How real and immediate is this threat?
Well, being in Vilnius, of course, to me, it's quite immediate. And we understand that, for example, right now, almost every day, the airports are closed in Vilnius and Kaunas, the second biggest city in Lithuania, starting from the evening. And of course, Russia right now understands that those hybrid threats, that potential, those balloons that are being flown from Belarus, that are crossing border from Belarus, it is actually a very cheap way, a very cheap type of hybrid attack for Russia or for anyone who would like to threat Lithuania, for example, in this manner. But those closures of airports, those military flights and military planes being deployed, it is extremely, they need to be paid for, of course. It's an extreme for any military group or for any army, let's put it this way. So this is not cheap, of course, for Lithuania. And those hybrid threats that are linked to actually acceleration of the eastern flank of the European Union are quite real, and they are a financial strain also on Baltic countries. And although, as I've just said, Baltic countries are not that big of a sponsors for Ukraine's munitions and Ukraine's military efforts, but diplomatically, they are, of course, quite a big pressure. And of course, the Baltic states are one of those states who are, first of all, saying that, of course, the pressure on Russia must grow and the help for Ukraine must grow exponentially. So those hybrid threats, for me, being here, are, of course, very real. And we understand that they are quite cheap for the other side and quite expensive for the Baltic states.
Alexandra, can we expect stronger military collaboration or new defense initiatives following this Nordic session?
It looks like the Nordic states are looking for new testings. They are trying to get the national operational plans even in tighter, let's say, in line, more in line with NATO regional plans. This most probably the airspace and counter-drone measures will follow with the understanding of what is happening now. And we've seen starting from September 2025, we've seen the Baltic Sentry, the Eastern Sentry, to protect the territory along NATO's eastern flank in response to those Russian drone incursions or Russian drone attacks in Poland. So, that was the Eastern Sentry, and the Baltic Sentry to increase critical infrastructure and security. So most probably we will see now, not only in Baltic states, but also in northern states also. And that mobility, that more nation support from the Nordic states, of course, and the focus that will mirror actually the borders of Baltic states and in general, eastern flank, eastern borders. So Nordic countries most probably will be more in line with NATO plans, with resilience, with counter-attack, counter-drone activities, and in general integrated those drone defense, air missile defense. This will be more in line with NATO plans.
Alexandra, looking ahead, what should we expect in terms of Nordic security cooperation in the next 12 to 24 months?
Well, first of all, the coordination and integration, joint operations, joint planning. So right now, it's not each country for itself, and NATO is becoming more tightly, let's say, aligned together with the Nordic states, first of all. And most probably, we will see more Eastern flank operations and testing. Right now, for example, Lithuania is holding some military mobility testing, and most probably this will happen not only in the Baltic states but also in northern states also. So some more logistics cooperation will begin actually in early 2026. There will be more exercises together in Nordic states and Baltic states. That's expected, and those visible linkages are expected in Rail Baltica and in the ports, and more support for Ukraine and from Ukraine. This is what is expected. Ukrainian military are supposed to actually share their experience with the Nordic countries, with Baltic countries, and with their armies. And in exchange, of course, Nordic countries will cooperate financially and will support Ukraine financially, and not Ukraine per se, but the ammunitions that are coming to Ukraine through the payment through Pearl initiative in NATO. So this is cooperation with Ukraine and more cooperation within Nordic and Baltic states on the eastern flank.
Alexandra Filipenko, thank you very much for your insights. We really appreciate you taking the time to join us today and helping our viewers understand the importance of Nordic cooperation in today's complex security environment. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much. See you.
Welcome back to A News Now. Let's take a closer look at the key stories shaping the region. Residents in Turkey's Balıkesir province are grappling with the aftermath of a powerful 6.1 magnitude earthquake. Emergency teams are working to assess damage and provide shelter for those affected.
A magnitude 6.1 earthquake struck the town of Sindirgi in Balıkesir province late Monday night, hitting at a shallow depth of just 6 kilometers. The quake caused at least 3 previously damaged buildings to collapse. Several aftershocks were also felt in Istanbul and the neighboring provinces of Bursa, Manisa and Izmir. Authorities report no immediate casualties, though 22 people were injured, mostly from falls caused by panic. Emergency teams are on the ground assessing the damage and providing support to affected communities. To accommodate those displaced by the earthquake, authorities have opened schools, mosques and other public buildings as temporary shelters. Meanwhile, relief teams are coordinating operations and conducting inspections across all neighborhoods to ensure public safety. Sindirgi has faced repeated seismic activity, including a magnitude 6.1 quake in August that killed 1 person and injured dozens. Smaller tremors have continued as Türkiye sits on major fault lines and is prone to earthquakes.
Over in Ankara, Turkey and the United Kingdom have signed a major defense agreement on Eurofighter Typhoon jets that the two sides say will boost NATO security. UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer said the agreement for 20 new aircraft will boost defense ties and support jobs in the British aerospace industry. Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan called the deal a new symbol of strategic partnership and said it would open the door to further joint projects. Both leaders also reaffirmed plans to expand trade.
This will bolster security across NATO, deepen our bilateral defence cooperation, and boost economic growth here and in the United Kingdom, securing 20,000 British jobs, building these state-of-the-art fighter jets. That is something to celebrate. I'm proud that British Typhoons will form a vital part of the Turkish Air Force for many years to come, as you defend NATO's southeastern flank for the good of all of us.
Bugünkü görüşmelerimizin odağını ticaret ve
I regard this agreement as a new symbol of the strategic relationship between two close allies. We are determined to increase our trade volume to $30 billion in the first stage and then to $40 billion. We remain committed to further strengthening our economic relations. Our relevant institutions are taking a number of steps, including updating our free trade agreement. We are also exploring opportunities for joint investments in third countries. Our goal is to establish new partnerships in the fields of energy and defense industries.
Russian energy giant Lukoil says it plans to sell its foreign assets following new U.S. and U.K. sanctions. The sanctions aimed at Russia's energy sector this month focus on Lukoil, Rosneft and numerous subsidiaries. The company is reviewing bids under U.S. Treasury wind-down license, which allows limited transactions for a set period. Lukoil's market value dropped by nearly $3.7 billion last week. The company has not disclosed which assets it will sell, but its major foreign holdings include a 75% stake in Iraq's West Gurna 2 oil field, as well as refineries in Bulgaria and Romania. Azerbaijan has signed the new United Nations Convention Against Cybercrime. The signing took place at a ceremony in Hanoi, Vietnam. Azerbaijan is among the first countries to sign the UN Convention Against Cybercrime. The treaty aims to strengthen legal cooperation between states in combating cybercrime, prevent the misuse of information and communication technologies, and set up international mechanisms for collecting and presenting electronic evidence. During the two-day event, a total of 72 sovereign states signed the convention. Armenia has invited the leaders of Azerbaijan and Turkey to attend the next European Political Community Summit in Yerevan, scheduled for May 4, 2026. Armenian Foreign Minister Ararat Mirzoyan told reporters that verbal invitations have been extended to Azerbaijani President Ilham Aliyev and Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan. He said Armenia views the signing of a peace treaty with Azerbaijan as a key step toward achieving lasting stability in the region. Mirzoyan reaffirmed that Yerevan remains committed to advancing dialogue and regional peace efforts. Iran's transport ministry has said Russia will provide $1.6 billion to complete the Rasht-Astara railway. The project is meant to connect Iran, Azerbaijan and Russia. Our Turaj Shivalilov has more in Tehran.
Iran's Minister of Road and Urban Development, Farzaneh Sadeh, said the contract on construction of the Rasht-Astara railway in the Iranian province of Gilan will be concluded next month in Russia. Also, her deputy, Hushang Bazvand, announced Russia's agreement to finance the railway project worth $1.6 billion. Speaking to reporters on the sidelines of launching a road development project in central Iran, the minister said final agreement on signing the Rasht-Astara railway project was reached earlier this month during her visit to Azerbaijan. She said that the trilateral meeting on transport and cargo transit cooperation between Iran, Azerbaijan and Russia in Baku was an important event that focused on completion of the international north-south transport corridor. The Astara-Rasht railway is the missing link of the 7,200-kilometer long north-south corridor that will integrate railways of Iran, Azerbaijan, Russia and India. The project is 162 kilometers long, consisting of 8 stations, 56 bridges, and 35 overpasses. According to the minister's deputy, Bazvand, Russia has agreed to provide Iran with $1.6 billion in low-cost facilities at a 3% interest rate for the construction of the Rasht-Astara railway. Following the Iranian minister's visit to Baku, Sadeh said that in a meeting with Azerbaijani officials, both sides reviewed the progress of joint transport and transit projects and agreed on organizing transit of goods at the border. Sadeh, who is also the co-chairperson of Azerbaijan-Iran Joint Economic Cooperation Commission, added that progress of joint infrastructure projects demonstrates Baku and Tehran's firm determination to advance their shared development objectives. Turaj Shiralilu, Tehran, A News.
Tensions between Afghanistan and Pakistan escalated after talks in Istanbul ended without an agreement. Both sides are trading sharply different accounts of what transpired. Our correspondent Tamim Bahis has more from Kabul.
Negotiations between Pakistan and Afghanistan in Istanbul have ended without results, according to media reports from both sides, offering conflicting accounts. Afghan outlets claim that Pakistani delegation appeared disorganized and more focused on withdrawal than dialogue. They report that Pakistan asked for permission to conduct operations inside Afghanistan during TTP attacks and acknowledged for the first time an agreement with a foreign country allowing drone strikes in Afghan territory. Afghan sources warned that any future attacks from Pakistan would trigger a direct response, while stressing Kabul's commitment to dialogue. Pakistani media, meanwhile, described the talks as high stakes and said Islamabad presented a firm position, demanding that the Taliban end support for terrorist groups and take concrete steps to dismantle their networks. Pakistani sources accused the Afghan side of avoiding practical solutions and said progress depends on signing a proposed technical agreement. Neither side's account has been independently verified. As of now, the situation along the border and the prospects of renewed talks remain uncertain. Tamim Bahis in Kabul, A News.
Welcome back to A News. Armenia has extended invitations to the leaders of Azerbaijan and Türkiye to attend the next European Political Community Summit, set to take place in Yerevan on May 4th, 2026. The announcement marks a potentially significant moment for regional diplomacy, as both Yerevan and Baku continue to signal readiness for a long-awaited peace agreement that could reshape the South Caucasus landscape. Armenian Foreign Minister Ararat Mirzoyan confirmed that verbal invitations have been extended to President Ilham Aliyev and President Recep Tayyip Erdogan. He reiterated Armenia's commitment to advancing dialogue and achieving lasting stability in the region. To discuss what this development could mean for the peace process, regional alignments, and the broader geopolitical dynamics surrounding Armenia, Azerbaijan, and Turkey, we are joined by political analyst Orkan Nabiev, who joins us from Baku, Azerbaijan. Orkan, welcome to the program.
Thank you for hosting me.
Orkan, how significant is Armenia's decision to invite President Ilham Aliyev and President Recep Tayyip Erdogan to Yerevan for the EPC summit?
It's a very significant step towards the positive attitudes towards the peace agreement and the peace reconciliation. So it's a significant signal from Armenian side that they are more than agree to welcome President Aliyev and President Erdogan in Yerevan. And it's a very good signal for the both societies that we are going towards the real peace that we agreed on the 8th of August, and we can continue, and we are going ahead with it.
Okay, do you think both leaders are likely to accept the invitation?
It's not so easy. First of all, Armenia has made a verbal invitation. They must send a formal written diplomatic notes or letters of invitation, and it's usually comes through the Minister of Foreign Affairs, and there should be agreed on the level of representation. Maybe it's too early for the president to participate, but Prime Minister or the other high-ranking official could participate on this. But talking precisely about the presidents, there should be domestic and political and public stability in Armenia, how the Armenian society will agree with it. So Armenian government should do the big steps before receiving the President Aliyev and President Erdogan in Yerevan.
Orkan, how might this EPC summit provide a platform for progress toward an Armenian-Azerbaijan peace agreement?
Usually, it doesn't matter in what formal this peace agreement and the peace negotiations continue, because we have the bilateral relations with Armenia. Sorry, the bilateral peace negotiations with Armenia. So it doesn't matter of the place. We saw that in Dushanbe, and President Aliyev and Prime Minister Pashinyan have had a small talk. At the same time, in Sharm el-Sheikh, during the Middle East Peace Summit, President Aliyev and Prime Minister Pashinyan had a small talk, and with participating the other world leaders. At the same time, it will be the same in the about the peace negotiation, but it's a very big step that from the crawling of the Soviet Union, the leader of Azerbaijan visits Yerevan. It had never happened before in the history. Maybe in the Soviet Union, the Secretary General of the Communist Party of Azerbaijan visited Armenia, but not in the level of the independent states. So it will be first historical visit of the Azerbaijan high-ranking official president to Armenia in Europe. So it will be a very good step. And yes.
From Azerbaijan's perspective, what conditions remain unresolved before a peace treaty can be signed?
Usually we talked about the constitution change and in the level of Armenia, because in Armenia still have this constitutional claiming in the level of the constitutional claim of the territories. But if Armenian decide to, if before this happen, Armenia will present of the constitution, always say that after the election of 2026, in June 2026, we will have the constitutional change elections, a referendum, plebiscite. It could be also the good positive sign, but also there's the opposite effect could be, because this kind of pressures from Azerbaijan, from the official Baku towards Armenia, could give the negative echoes in Armenian society. So they could think that Pashinyan's government is totally pro-Azerbaijan, and it could create some kind of the negative assets in Armenian society. So we should be very careful, and we should also feel the pulse of the Armenian society before to do any kind of pressure or the positive attitudes towards Armenia.
Orkan, given Armenian Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan's proposal for the Margara-Yegegnadzor-Sisyan-Goris route and President Ilham Aliyev's remarks about the Zangezur corridor becoming operational by 2028, how should we interpret Yerevan's move as an alternative to the Zangezur corridor or as a step toward eventual regional connectivity?
No, Zangezur corridor is a far more big project than this Maragha-Sisyan road, because it's a Margara-Sisyan road, because it's totally different. The first one, it's for only the trucks, and it's very highland territory. So highland territory is not very suitable for the big projects, big railway projects, big highway road projects. So it's a small alternative that Armenia could give us for temporary. But Zangezur project is not about this. Zangezur corridor project is not about this trip. Trip is a part of the Zangezur corridor. Zangezur corridor starts in Azerbaijan. It starts from the eastern Zangezur eastern Zangezur region of Azerbaijan, goes to the Armenia and goes to the Nakhchivan, and it's a very big project that includes railways, that includes communication roads, that it could include in the future gas pipelines. It could also include the big highway roads, because it's only the few parts of Armenia that there's a landscape allows to make this kind of big projects. But this small road that given for the transit from Turkey to Azerbaijan, it's a alternative only for trucks and the cars that Azerbaijan can use temporarily.
Orkun, finally, do you believe that holding such a high-profile EPC summit in Yerevan could mark a turning point in Armenia's diplomatic posture and its regional identity?
The identity of Armenia changed, and one of the marks of why we can say the identity of Armenia changed. The last Sunday's liturgy in Yerevan, we saw that how many people participated in the official church, the Garegin the liturgy, and how many people joined together with Nikol Pashinyan's liturgy and the priest was that priest that he just thrown out from the official clergy, from the official Armenian church. And we saw that majority of people above all the youngest generation, they support Pashinyan and they go against the official clergy and official Armenian church. It gives a good signals that those who created myth, those who have businesses in Moscow, whose brothers are the KGB agents, and they are losing their points. And there's no big support. The revanchists, there's no big support. The Armenian clergy. So yes, Armenian society has this major identity change, and it will be in the future, and we will see it more and more.
Orkun Nabiyev, thank you very much for talking to A News. We greatly appreciate your time and perspective. Thanks a lot.
Thank you for hosting me. Thank you very much.
You're up to date with world news for an hour. Thank you for watching and stay tuned to A News.